Robert Saleh is officially back with the San Francisco 49ers, and this is a great move for both sides. He will assume the same position that he had with the 49ers from 2017 and until 2020 as their defensive play caller. This is a great move. Robert Saleh as a head coach is very questionable and did not work out with the New York Jets. But as a defensive coordinator, he's one of the best defensive coordinators that we have seen since 2015. His defenses with the 49ers, they smother offenses, some of the best offenses in the NFL since 2017. Even with the New York Jets, he had great defenses. And the last time that he was a defensive play caller with this organization, they ranked 4th in passing defense and 7th in rushing defense. And this is going to be a major upgrade over Nick Sorensen. Now, I will say this. Steve Wilks was their DC a year ago when they went against the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. But we all know how that ended. Steve Wilks was more so concerned with secondary play than the front seven. That's why John Lynch went out there and he made the trade to bring in Chase Young. And for 3 games, their defense took a massive upgrade. Their defense went out there. They were able to stop the run. They were able to get to the passer on a consistent basis. But in the Super Bowl, they could not slow down Patrick Mahomes. And Kyle Shanahan was not the biggest fan of Steve Wilks, so they let him go. You can make the argument that he screwed over Steve Wilks because Steve Wilks had nowhere else to go. When you fire a coach after the Super Bowl, more than likely, unless they take a job as an analyst or a consultant with a team, all the vacancies are filled up. Head coaching vacancies, offensive coordinator vacancies, and the same with defensive coordinator vacancies. So he pushed him out the door in favor of Nick Sorensen, and their defense took a major hit. Steve Wilks was a solid DC in the regular season. Nick Sorensen, 5th in passing defense. They'll get it done. That's amazing. But the rushing defense took a major hit. They were 17th in rushing defense this season. Now, Nick Sorensen had too much on his plate, and he will still be with the coaching staff in a different role. I do feel for Nick Sorensen for this reason. Dre Greenlaw missed pretty much all of this year. He did come in and play a couple of games, but his season would be ended yet again due to a calf injury. The reason why he missed majority of this season, he tore his Achilles in that Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I will say this, if he was able to finish out that game, Patrick Mahomes would have not been able to run all over the place like how he did in overtime and how they were able to use Travis Kelce in one-on-one situations. Devondre Campbell was a terrible linebacker when he was starting with the 49ers, and he had a horrible attitude. He did not even want to check back into the game against the Los Angeles Rams on Thursday Night Football. That's why they suspended him for the final 3 games of this regular season. But when I look at Coach Saleh, he's an upgrade over Steve Wilks, and he's an upgrade over Nick Sorensen. He's going to focus on front 7 play. The passing defense, they'll take care of themselves with the players that they have, with Lenore, Renardo Green, and Charvarius Ward. Those are 3 very good cornerbacks to have in your secondary, but the pass rush has not been consistent, and the gap responsibilities have been terrible. Even with Steve Wilks, certain points of times in certain matchups, the gap responsibilities were not there because they were not focused on stopping the run. And that is one thing that Kyle Shanahan hates because he loves to run the football. It's really a gut punch when he is seeing the opposing offense go out there and run the football down their throat. Because the opposing team, they're using time possession. With Robert Saleh, he's going to put Nick Bosa into the right situations. He's going to put Fred Warner into the right situations, and the same with Dre Greenlaw if he decides to come back next season. And you still have Leonard Floyd on the outside. Javon Hargrave, more than likely they will cut him and bring him back to save money and cap space. But Javon Hargrave, he missed majority of this year dealing with an injury. So the 49ers defense, they had a lot of injuries that they were dealing with. And Nick Sorensen, he was not good enough just yet to cover and mask some of those injuries. Robert Saleh has done this in the past. When the San Francisco 49ers were dealing with injuries on their defensive front, he just went over there and he just switched guys around by running different twists and different stunts up front with those defensive linemen. So I believe that the San Francisco 49ers defense will be back for this upcoming season. They should easily be a top 5 to top 10 defense in the league with him calling plays. He's a phenomenal defensive mind. And we saw that when he was with the San Francisco 49ers before and when he was the head coach with the New York Jets. They do have a lot of question marks with some of their personnel on the defensive end. Hufanga was a phenomenal safety for the first couple of years in his career. He tore his ACL a year ago. He hasn't been the same player. On the field, he's still solid, but he's missing a lot of time due to that injury. Hopefully he can stay healthy. And when I look at this previous season that we just moved off of, the 49ers, they have a good roster. They have good players. Injuries just held them back and bad offensive line play. And I will also say this about Kyle Shanahan. I do believe that Kyle Shanahan is a very good head coach. I'm not going to come on here and ever say that Kyle Shanahan is a terrible head coach and he deserves to be fired. But Kyle Shanahan did a lot of questionable things this season. Christian McCaffrey, another guy that missed a huge portion of this year, dealing with Achilles tendonitis, and he tore his PCL against the Buffalo Bills. As soon as he came back into the lineup, Kyle Shanahan is giving him 20 touches on the day against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you have two solid running backs in Jordan Mason and Isaac Guerendo. Now, Jordan Mason did have a fumbling issue. But if you want to move off of Jordan Mason, just put in Isaac Guerendo. When I look at the Shanahan system, even dating back with Mike Shanahan, no matter who the running back is, they're going to always give you good numbers because this is a good running back system. This is a running back friendly system. And we've seen this before with running backs in the past. They'll go from the San Francisco 49ers, they'll go to a different team. They're not the same running back. And the same with Jordan Mason. No one knew who Jordan Mason was in week 1 against the New York Jets. Robert Saleh's defense, he had a great game. So you can still use Christian McCaffrey in the red zone, but take some of that pressure off of Christian McCaffrey. Every single game, you don't have to give him 20 to 25 touches. He is still one of the best players to have, yes. But when he's dealing with an injury, and he has dealt with injuries in his career, it's time to dial back some of those touches and save him for the postseason. Save him for later on in the year and use those other running backs on your roster. They could easily draft a running back in the 4th or 5th round, and he can give you at least 80 to 90 yards rushing a game. That is how good the system is with Kyle Shanahan. That's a compliment to his system. He's a very good head coach. He just can't exercise this demon. He was the former offensive play caller with the Atlanta Falcons when they blew that 28-3 lead. He's the same head coach that blew that lead against the Kansas City Chiefs when Patrick Mahomes won his first Super Bowl. And we saw last year how they lost in overtime to the Kansas City Chiefs. Even though I do believe that Kyle Shanahan is an amazing head coach, when you go back and listen to the mic'd up footage in the coin toss, when the 49ers, they won the coin toss and the players said, we want to receive, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, they were confused. Why does that team want to go out there and receive? Regardless, the Chiefs, they're going to get the football back if the 49ers scored a touchdown or not. The 49ers went with a field goal, and the defense, they were not able to hold up in overtime because of all the injuries that they were dealing with and the fact that Steve Wilks just had a bad play calling drive. The Chiefs get the touchdown. That ends the game. And you have a bunch of San Francisco 49ers players saying, I didn't know that until now. I didn't know that they would get the ball back regardless. That's what Kyle Juszczyk said right before he put his helmet on. Why don't the players know this? That comes down to coaching. And you can't use the excuse, well, the league just put the rules in. The rules have been in for the last 2 years. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, they all knew this. They were drilling this into them all week long. And Kyle Shanahan did not do that. And when you're the head coach, you have to know those little details to help out your players and help them succeed and put them into the right situations. So problems like that are inexcusable for a coach like Kyle Shanahan. And he has been in this league for a very long time. And he comes from a great family. Mike Shanahan is one of the best head coaches the NFL has ever seen. So you think that he would have known this. But he did not tell his players this, and he did not give them that information. And if he did know this, he would have said, hey, if we win this coin toss, let's go defer. Let's see if the Chiefs can come down with a touchdown or a field goal. You really played into the Chiefs' hands. It wasn't all on Kyle Shanahan, but the fact that they lost that Super Bowl against the Chiefs a year ago, that still is hunting this team right now. Just like how the 28-3 blown lead hunted the Atlanta Falcons for many years. It is still hunting that organization till this day. But when I look at this offense, you have great pieces. Besides Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams is still one of the best tackles in the game. He is older, and he wasn't able to finish out the season on the back half of the season because he was dealing with an injury. But as long as he can stay fully healthy, he will be okay. Eventually, they're going to have to prioritize fixing this offensive line. You do have a good guard that was a rookie this season with the San Francisco 49ers, but you have to go out there and bring in another tackle to help out the blind side of Brock Purdy, just in case Trent Williams does go down, and bring in another right tackle. I think that when you look at this offensive line with the San Francisco 49ers, a lot of their bad play is being masked because Brock Purdy is able to move around and extend the play. And Brock Purdy is a franchise quarterback. Brock Purdy went to the NFC Championship game his first year when he was starting on the back half of that season, when Trey Lance went down with a broken ankle and when Jimmy Garoppolo went down with a broken foot. And they would have more than likely won that game against the Philadelphia Eagles if he did not tear the UCL in his elbow. And then the season right after, he leads them to a Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. Not only that, he had a very good game against the Kansas City Chiefs in that Super Bowl. So you know when it's time to pay Brock Purdy, and they are a couple of years away from really making that decision, when it's time to pay him, a lot of these veteran guys, they're not going to be able to stay on the roster. Because more than likely, Brock Purdy is going to make $55 to $60 million per season. Look at some of the quarterbacks in today's game. They haven't even done as much as Brock Purdy has done, and they're making $55 to $60 million. So you know for a fact that Brock Purdy, with all the things that he has done in the past, and he saved the jobs of John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, he's going to ask for a lot of money. And I'm going to go out there and explain what I mean that he saved the jobs of John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. They traded up for Trey Lance. And look at how that worked out for this team. If Trey Lance did not work out long term, and he didn't, and they did not have Brock Purdy, they would still be stuck with Jimmy Garoppolo. And more than likely, they would have fired John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan because of that move. And I love the leadership with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, but moves like that always get general managers and coaches fired. And we have seen this in the past with different leaderships. So when it's time to pay a guy like Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel may not be on this roster. Brandon Ayuk did sign a long-term contract extension. He got injured this year against the Chiefs. He basically tore up everything in his knee. And before he was able to go out there and sign that deal, he missed a lot of time of training camp. He was showing up in shorts, but he wasn't working out. And when he was able to play this year, he did not look the same. He was not in shape, and he dropped a lot of passes. I expect for him to return back to form next season as one of the best wide receivers in the league. Deebo Samuel had a down year this year. He had a lot of drops. The last 4 games, he did play better. And John Lynch has come out and he has said that he wants to bring him back. We will see if he brings him back or not. I believe that you can move on from Deebo Samuel. You have Ricky Pearsall. He got shot in the offseason, so he missed a good portion of the year in the beginning. But when he was able to play, you saw a lot of potential for Ricky Pearsall. That's why you drafted him in the first round. He has potential to be a very good number 2 to number 3 target with the 49ers. And he doesn't have to be their true number 1 wide receiver because you have Brandon Ayuk and you have one of the best receiving tight ends in George Kittle, who was phenomenal all year long. The 49ers dealt with a lot of tragedy on and off the field, but the one consistent player that they had was George Kittle. He showed up every single week. So as long as you have him, you're going to be very good in the receiving room. George Kittle is amazing. He's a definition of a do-it-all tight end. When you talk about a complete tight end that can block, that can go out there and take a 5 to 10 yard play and take it to the house for 50 to 60 yards and break a lot of tackles in space, that is what George Kittle is. He's a franchise tight end. But put some more pieces on this offensive line to help out Brock Purdy. You have Juwan Jennings, who would have had over 1,000 receiving yards this year if he did not get kicked out of the last game. Juwan Jennings was their best wide receiver this season. So you have good players, even when you're dealing with injuries. It was just too many injuries to overcome this year. But bringing back Robert Saleh, that's a great move. That is an amazing move. And moving off of Devondre Campbell after this year is going to be even better. They could easily draft a linebacker in the 2nd or 3rd round and put that kid right there and play alongside Fred Warner because Fred Warner is so good. Right now, he's the best interior linebacker, in my opinion. And he's been Mr. Consistent. And you would think that he would have elevated the play with Devondre Campbell, but Devondre Campbell was so terrible in coverage and he was so terrible against the run. I'm still scratching my head about the fact that he did not want to check back into the game against the Los Angeles Rams. That man was terrible. The fact that Kyle Shanahan kept him on the roster after week 6 says a lot. Kyle Shanahan was really doing him a favor. And I doubt that he will be back in the NFL next season because he's an aging veteran. And not only just that, his best days are behind him. When you play with the 49ers, especially in that linebacking room, you should be a very good player because the pass rush that they have with Nick Bosa on a consistent basis when he's fully healthy, Javon Hargrave, Leonard Floyd this year, he was a solid player, and you're playing alongside Fred Warner. Offensive coaches are not worried about the second or third linebacker playing alongside Fred Warner unless it is Dre Greenlaw. Besides that, he should have went out there and he should have been a tackle machine, and he wasn't. The safeties, they're solid when they're fully healthy. The secondary, I like every single player in the secondary. They're young there. They can play a lot of press man coverage. And the defense, as long as they are better against the run, the 49ers should be out for vengeance next season. Now look at their division. They did lose to the Seattle Seahawks this year. They gave up a game-winning touchdown to Geno Smith when he was able to run it in with his legs. That's not going to happen with Robert Saleh. The Arizona Cardinals, they gave this team a lot of problems this season. I don't expect for James Conner to go out there and run all over this defense like how he did in games this season against the 49ers. And when I look at the Los Angeles Rams, they are a tough team. They won this division and they have so many pieces that you have to look out for with Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua. But I do believe the San Francisco 49ers, you run it back for one more season. You see what you have before you pay Brock Purdy, and you should still be in the Super Bowl conversation. Because you look at the NFC right now, the Washington Commanders, they're on the come up. They're in the NFC Championship game. You have the Philadelphia Eagles. They're right there. But when the 49ers are fully healthy, they may match up with the Philadelphia Eagles in a very good way. We've seen this before in the past. The Dallas Cowboys, the 49ers own them in the NFL playoffs. And you have the Green Bay Packers. So the 49ers, they're not far off. They can go out there, bring in some more pieces to this roster before you give Brock Purdy that major contract extension, bring some more players through the NFL draft, hopefully at the offensive line position. One more time. You see what you have in this roster. You make that one last Super Bowl push. If it doesn't work out, hey, you tried. But the standard now for the 49ers is Super Bowl or bust. And this team went to the Super Bowl last year. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. I want to see Kyle Shanahan win a Super Bowl. It hasn't happened just yet, but I do believe that it can happen in the future. He just has to clean up the little details. That's it. But let me know in the comment section below how you guys feel about the San Francisco 49ers moving forward with Robert Saleh back on the coaching staff. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.